ones. Big paper, okay. Good. Certainly.
Score. 1 minute. 145,000.
Good morning. The Board of Commissioners will come to order. Please take the roll.
Commissioner Snyder? Here. Bone?
Here.
Schulte?
Here.
Gambrell?
Here.
Dorian?
Here.
Smith? Here. Chairman Stamas?
Here.
7 present, 0 absent.
With that, the board will now give an invocation and pledge. Please join us.
O Lord God, great is your power. You are faithful in all your promises, even while extending mercy. Thank you that we can come before you. First, we pray for the many families and communities affected by the weekend storms. We grieve with them, and we ask that you help them in their next steps. Comfort the families who lost loved ones, O Lord. Protect emergency and relief workers as they come to help. We gratefully thank you for protecting our community from devastation from those storms. I thank you also for helping our federal government last week to work through the budget crisis and avoid a shutdown. I thank you for the unity on this board. Help us make wise decisions for Midland County. We earnestly pray for your blessings on all the people in Midland County. I pray for an increase of peace, harmony, and love with the desire to serve. In your name I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next on the agenda would be the approvals of the March 11th, 2025 Executive Committee Board meeting. We need a motion and support.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Thank you. With that, they are approved. Acceptance of claims and accounts from the weeks of January 20th and 27th and February 3rd.
Properly addressed, general bank claims approved for the weeks of January 20th, 2025 through January 24th, 2025 in the amount of $492,272. Total general fund expenditures, $266,563.13. Properly addressed, general bank claims approved for the weeks of January 27th, 2025 through January 31st, 2025 in the amount of $507,864.54. Total general fund expenditures, $146,024.96. And properly addressed, general bank claims approved for the weeks of February 3rd, 2025 through February 7th, 2025 in the amount of $1,583,323.13. Total general fund expenditures, $463,317.06.
Move to approve.
Support.
Thank you. Next, before us, we have a public hearing to discuss submittal of a proposed grant application to the Michigan Department of Natural Resources for improvements at Sanford Lake Park and Grill. We will go as a commissioner board at ease and open up a public hearing and invite John to speak. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Chair Stamas and County Board Commission members. This morning, the Park Commission is respectfully requesting your consideration to submit a grant application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund. This is a fairly straightforward project at this point. We've amended it. Before I go any further, I probably should say it's got an April 1st deadline. It's a fairly long timeline. These projects take a fair amount of time to go through the process. So we won't know about this until December as to whether or not we've got a grant award. But regardless, like I said, it's a fairly straightforward project at this point. 2 scope items. We're looking at rebuilding the existing boat launch parking lot. And we're looking at rebuilding the existing boat launch itself. The parking lot itself, I believe, pre-flood was about, it had enough room for about 85 spots. It's a fairly large parking lot. The boat launch itself has never been rebuilt, to my knowledge, and it was actually slated to be done in 2020. We had some set-aside funds for this to at least begin the project in 2020. Obviously, that didn't happen because of the flood, so at least we're dewatered now, so that's the good story. That's the good part of it. But we'd like to, when we redo this, regardless, when we redo it, we want to extend it a little bit, and it may or may not require a bit of dredging in order to get the boats up into the boat launch as well. The total project cost is $630,000. We'd like to request $400,000 to the state, which is the max, and the balance, $230,000, will be provided by the Four Lakes Task Force. So that's, again, that's the amended plan at this point. Also with me this morning is Dave Rothman from Four Lakes. But I don't know if you have any questions or if there are any questions from the public. I'm happy to answer them.
All right, thank you. We'll first open it up for public comment.
Well, good morning to the commissioners. My name's Dave Rothman. I'm Vice President of Four Lakes Task Force. I look forward to being able to apply for the grant that John Schmutte talked about, because if we're able to do this work to restore the parking lot and the boat launch at Sanford Lake Park, that will indicate that we really intend to finish up the work on Sanford Dam and reflood Sanford Lake. If we can start the work in the parking lot and start the work in the boat ramp, we'll know that we're done with Sanford Dam's restoration. So this has been a long project. I'm looking forward to the end of this when we can actually have a lake again to use. I miss the lakes. But I really would be grateful for your support in John partnering with me to apply to the State of Michigan Trust Fund for a grant to help us financially in getting these facilities restored and put ready for service when we get the lake refilled. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment that wishes to speak to the subject? Seeing none, we'll close public comment, and we will close the public hearing. Commissioners' hearing will come back to order, and I also have a special program today to present Midland Public Schools regarding the facility improvement bond. And we have Penny Nelson. Is it Penny? Yes. Good morning. Please come up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to share information with you today. I have with me my colleague, Brian Bertin, who serves as our Assistant Superintendent. I also want to acknowledge that we have two school board members with us today in the back. We have Jennifer Ringgold, who serves as our Board of Education Secretary, and we have Brad Blasey, who is a Board of Education trustee. And they may join us here at the end for Q&A and some additional comments. So thank you. This is an important proposal to our community. It is an investment in our students and our schools and our community, and we are excited to share this information with you. I want to acknowledge that we have about a 40-minute presentation that we're condensing down into about 15 minutes. There is much more detail available on our website. So I will begin by just giving us a quick history. I think it's important that you all know how Midland Public Schools has invested in this process. It began with a very thorough assessment of our facilities more than 2 years ago. We did use a third-party independent expert in school facilities to assess every single one of our schools, and that data was used by the Board of Education and Administration to inform the process along the way. We had a period where we received community input about some ideas, some concepts that we put out to the community. And again, our board respected that insight, those opinions, and used that to inform the proposal that I'm sharing with you today. So this is on the May 6th ballot. The Department of Treasury has approved this bond proposal, both for the contents of the work to be done, the new construction and renovation, as well as the financial model that underpins this. I want to take just a moment before we get into the details to share one other set of facts that underpin this proposal. Our Board of Education understands these conditions and trends that we face, and it's part of why this proposal is so relevant right now. The first is that we have aging facilities. The average age of our schools is 64 years old, and that includes our newest build with Central Park Elementary. Our buildings are aging, and we are working hard to stay on top of that maintenance and keep them in the best condition possible, but it's becoming increasingly challenging. We have 2 schools that need to come offline. Carpenter Street Elementary will be 100 years old next year, and it has served us well, but it's time for that building to sunset. And the other is Northeast Middle School. Brian will talk about that a bit more in our future slides. The second trend is expanding preschool. Preschool for all is something we're excited about. The research is compelling about the impact of high quality preschool in terms of students' opportunity to learn and their trajectory for learning to increase. We want to be ready to expand those offerings at Midland Public Schools. Our enrollment is stable, and this might surprise folks because we know birth rates across our state are declining, but we continue to be a district that families choose, a community that families choose. Our enrollment is stable. We're proud of that. We have fabulous teachers. We think that's part of the reason as well. However, our population has shifted to the north. So north of US 10, we have 600 elementary age students and 1,500 students grades K-12 without a school north of town. And what's interesting is that geographic area, is zoned primarily to Woodcrest Elementary, Siebert Elementary, and a bit to Adams. And it's putting considerable pressure on those schools. They are beyond full. In fact, all of our elementaries are full. Brian will address that in a future slide. So we have some space constraints that we need to address. We need more space, particularly for our elementaries. And finally, I think you all know that we pride ourselves in our academic excellence at Midland Public Schools. We want to maintain and to continue to enhance our standing as a district that prepares students for success beyond high school. Having said that, before I turn it over to Brian, the Board of Education and Administration took all of that data, facility assessment, community input, these trends and conditions, and have developed this bond program that we're sharing with you today. It aligns with these 5 focus areas. And in the spirit of time, Brian is going to talk us through a few highlights of each of these areas.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate being able to share this important information with you. To repeat something that Penny said, there is about a 45-minute version of this presentation. So all I'm going to hit with you is the very highlights, and I'm sure that there'll be questions after where we can dial in a little bit closer to some of these. The number 1 priority for Midland Public Schools on a daily basis is student safety. It is what we take the most serious each and every single day. And in our previous bond campaign in 2015, we invested heavily into safety and security. But do know that some of the technology that we installed in 2015 is now 10 years old, and technology advances at a very rapid pace. And so for us, it's time to reinvest into a camera system that has enhanced pixels and allows us to install artificial intelligence that will operate at a higher efficiency rate than we have now. We have weapons detection within our cameras, and it is very important for us to be able to have the lenses and technology behind that to make sure that we are realizing the full benefits of those systems. In addition, we've learned through our wonderful partnerships with first responders that seconds matter when it comes to emergencies. And for us in that protocol, installing safety glass throughout the Midland Public Schools slows down the bad guys by seconds, and seconds matter. In addition, there is modern technology in alert systems. In our day, there were fire alert systems, tornado alert systems. Now there are security lockdown systems that will provide notices to staff and students on different types of lockdowns, and also will let them call those, just like the way that we're pulling fire alarms these days. So for us, this will be the number 1 priority to make sure that we are staying at the forefront of safety and security technology, making sure that our buildings are the safest spot to be in the school system every single day. For pre-K offerings, in very brief, our journey into offering preschool within the Midland Public Schools started about 8 years ago. We started with 16 students, and in the past 8 years, we've expanded to now over 150 students that we are servicing at the Early Childhood Center. And we do predict and believe that that is going to continue to expand over time as well, too. Because of the rapid expansion, we had to reopen Carpenter Street Elementary School. It had been previously closed in the 2015 bond, but because of that rapid expansion, we had to repurpose that building, breathe a little bit of life into it, and also use that as a temporary home for our robotics team for a couple years as well, too. We know that the state continues to double down on their belief in preschool programming, and we at Midland Public believe that we do that well, and it also can help us achieve some of our academic goals and get every single student proficient by 3rd grade in literacy. And this is one of the strategies that we believe is extremely important for us. There are residual benefits for this as well, too, in terms of offering programming for staff and students and supports along the way. Our educational program spaces in the 2015 bond, we did very heavy renovations to our elementary schools. It's time for us to now invest into our secondary schools. If any of you attended any of our secondary schools through your educational pathway, if you were to tour those buildings today, you will know that many of those program spaces look the same that they did when you all may have attended those schools. The furniture has served us well, but it is not modern educational furniture. It is still the same furniture that you may have sat in, and we know that for us to be able to adapt to modern learning techniques, having flexible furniture, flexible spaces is important. In addition, the CTE spaces that were designed when those schools were built, we have a welding lab at Midland High, an auto lab at Dow High. Those were built original to those buildings. And for us, it's time to reinvest into those facilities so that we can equip those with what is the modern space that adapts to what those learning techniques as well, too. For arts, athletics, and elementary play areas, it is time for us to enhance these spaces as well, too. We do have drainage issues at our elementary sites, and you all know as county commissioners that when it comes to drainage, to do it the right way, it takes grading, it takes drainage tiles, and all of the things that come along with stormwater retention to do this right, and that gets expensive. But for us, we know that play is a very important part of a kid's academic experience, and so we need to make sure that we are getting those playgrounds back up to a level where they are not losing out on opportunities, especially in the springtime where you have the melt, thaw, freeze cycle, and we get drainage spots that are troublesome throughout the district. As well, you probably have noticed that we have amazing arts programs. That's band, that's orchestra, as well as all the other related arts as well, too. And we have a fleet of instruments that support those students. It's time for us to reinvest in that instrument fleet so that they have equipment that matches the expectations that we have for those programs and the exemplary performance levels that go along with them. Our Midland Community Stadium has received many renovations over the year. We're proud of that facility. For us, the next level of renovations for those is for us to go after our restrooms and concessions area. Any of you that may attend the wonderful event that is the Midland High Dow High game, it is a great community activity, and our restroom facilities, I won't go into details, but I think if you've experienced it, you know that it's time for us to go into renovations because you all are familiar with code. The minute that we touch those facilities, they have to meet modern construction code, which means going from a couple of stalls to dozens of stalls. That's plumbing, that's piping, and all of the things, so that will be an extensive renovation, as well as investing into the athletic facilities at all secondary schools. For us, it is time to go into the area that is behind Dow High School and put some money into those facilities. Behind Dow High School, we do not have parking. We have dirt roads that go back in there. In addition, we don't have restrooms and concessions area right now. We're using porta-johns for that, and for us, for that visitor experience and for also our athlete experience, it's time to invest in those as well, too. Our junior highs at the Northeast site and Jefferson site, our tracks are not tracks, they are cinders. At Jefferson, it is not a quarter mile around and it has a tree in the middle of it. In addition, the orientation of those fields are not conducive to playing in the proper way, sun's in your eyes. It's time for us to provide a better experience for those students as well, too. For aging facilities, as county commissioners, I'm sure that you deal with this all the time. These are not the areas that typically excite the public, but for someone that has a background in school finance and operations, this excites me because for us in our schools, it's time for us to make sure that all of them are operating at the most efficient level that they can. HVAC costs money. We are proud that in the Midland Public Schools, we only have 2 of the buildings in our fleet that are not Energy Star rated, and those 2 buildings are Northeast Middle School and the Carpenter Pre-Primary Center. For us to get the HVAC operating at an efficient level means that we can dedicate our general fund dollars to the classroom and not to higher energy costs. Roofing is a challenge for us with a fleet of buildings that we have. By 2026, over half of the roofs in the Midland Public Schools are going to be over 20 years old. That means that you lose your warranty, and flat roofs on schools become troublesome, especially when you have the contraction, the expansion that comes along with the winter months. And those are millions of dollars of replacements for the roofs. Again, those millions of dollars, the roofs we will not let leak on students. So either it's going to come from the general fund, which funds our classrooms, or through a bond proposal. In addition, Penny mentioned that the average age of our buildings is 64 years old. That does include Central Park Elementary, which is a newer building to the fleet. And so for us, it is time to construct a new elementary school and also a new middle school as well to combat some of the space issues that you've heard before. Two of the pillars of this bond proposal is the construction of 2 new schools for Midland Public. The first would be a new elementary school, and the new elementary school will be located north of US 10. Penny mentioned that we do have a large volume of students that are living north of US 10, 600 elementary students to be specific, almost 1,500 students total. And this new elementary school to the north would allow us to have additional spaces that right now are challenging for us, especially in our northern boundary elementary schools such as Siebert and Woodcrest and a little bit of Adams as well too. In those elementaries, they are jam-packed, they are full, meaning that we are absorbing some of our innovative spaces such as STEM maker spaces and making them classrooms. And we're also forced to make decisions annually where we have to take a look at class sizes. We have the general funds to add more teachers to the school, to lower class sizes. We do not have the space in which to be able to do it. In addition, we also have increasing demands from the Midland County ESA. It's our partnership agency and our support agency that provides programming for students that have the highest needs, students with disabilities. It is important for those students to be integrated into the Midland Public Schools general population so that those students have access to pushing into general programming, access to music, to art, to physical education, all of the great parts of an educational program for students. And right now, every single year when they ask us for additional space, the answer is yes, because it's the right thing to do, but it forces us to make decisions that have an opportunity cost to them. Higher class sizes, also forcing some of our auxiliary programs onto carts, interventions in hallways. We know that these are techniques that are not conducive to the best educational experience. We also believe that the elementary school built to the north will help us with capacity issues, and we also believe it can reduce bus travel times, which can be challenging for students at the very severe northern end of our district as well too. Northeast Middle School will be a new school, but it will be a replacement. This is not in addition to. Think of the way that the community center was constructed. We would plan to construct a new Northeast on that site at the same time that the current Northeast Middle School is still in operation. So as the new Northeast Middle School will be being built on the northern fringe of that site, Northeast would continue to operate, and we believe it's about a 6 or 7 year construction time frame to be able to get students moved over into that new building. We will be hosting a community session at Northeast Middle School, as well as posting pictures online so that we can show you the current condition of that building. And there is detailed documents on our website that show that we have done studies on the cost of reinvesting in that building versus building anew. For utilization, the optimal target utilization rate is 85% in buildings, according to facility experts. And you can see when you take a look at the bottom part of that chart that most of our elementaries are above that and some are exceeding 100%. Again, when you're at 100%, what that means is you have absolutely not another inch of space for anything. If you have been into Siebert or Woodcrest Elementary lately, you will have experienced that those buildings are full. And for us to be able to add a new elementary school into that fleet would allow us to reassess where we have programming and to be able to offer additional spaces when they're necessary for auxiliary program or for ESA programming as well too. We do not have a site that has been purchased for the new elementary school, but do know that we have done our diligence. We have worked with our partners from the city. We have also taken a look at available properties. We have a couple of sites that are possibilities, but we did not want to purchase property in advance of a successful bond proposal, but know that we've done our diligence and we've studied access to water, sewage, et cetera, to try and find what could be a potential ideal location to mitigate some of the issues that we're having. Buildings that will be coming offline to the Carpenter Pre-Primary Center. As Penny said, that building is 100 years old. We don't joke about this in presentations, but it is a fact. Some of those classrooms still have fireplaces in them. It's time for us to be able to modernize a space. We have our pre-primary or our preschool programming in those spaces. That building will come off of line, and we will take those preschool programs and place those in our primary elementary schools. There's a longer story to this one, but know that when we started preschool programming, they were in our primary elementary schools. Because of the volume of students we had coming in, we had to move it to Carpenter. That was not convenient for parents. That means that parents had to now drop off at Carpenter and then perhaps a sibling to Woodcrest and then a sibling to Jefferson. That creates traffic congestion around our school areas, and it also is very inconvenient for parents, as well as providing an additional transition for our littlest students. And research tells you that transitions are hard. So a student will have a school at 4 years old, a different school at 5, and we believe that putting those out into our primary buildings would be better for our parents, for our students, and also for our staff efficiencies as well too. We did talk about Northeast Middle School coming offline, so no need to go further into that unless there's questions a little bit later. In terms of the project timeline, there's a lot of work within this proposal. We are planning to sell the bonds over 4 series. You can see those listed for you at the bottom. Because you do not get all of those dollars at one time, you have to sequence out the construction in a manner that allows you to be able to pay for those in real time. So the very first big project that we would tackle would be building a new elementary to help solve some of those issues that I've talked about earlier in the presentation. You'll see that ongoing work will start to happen immediately. The safety and security enhancements that I talked about begin the second that we are able to, as well as some of the work on the playgrounds, athletic areas, and educational improvements. You'll also see embedded throughout this timeline the purchase of buses and also technology. The price of buses have skyrocketed. When I first started in my career, we were paying $70,000 to $80,000. Last year, we're paying almost $160,000 a piece for school buses. Again, we need to make sure our students are safe, and we can either fund those through a capital initiative such as a bond campaign or through the general fund. And technology, we need to make sure that our kids always have the best devices in their hands. Later on in the timeline, you'll see the construction of the new middle school will begin in the 2030 timeframe, and we anticipate that that construction will be complete in the nature of around 2033. You'll see our investment breakdown. This is a $285 million proposal. That is a $3.25 million increase over the current levy that those constituents within the Midland Public Schools boundaries are paying. Without going into detail on the graph, you'll see that the largest portion of this is, again, those cornerstones of the bond, which is the building of a new elementary and a new middle school. On the ballot that will be coming to people in absentee form toward the end of this month or at the primary election, you will see a couple of different numbers. As I said before, taxpayers will feel a $3.25 million increase over their current levy, but the ballot language does say a $3.9 million increase. So I'll spend about 60 seconds on this to make sure that there's clarification. We do still have currently debt on our 2015 bond proposal. If you're taking a look at the chart, you can see those in that chart. That is the green, thank you, color issues on my end, apologies for that. The green bar is our current 2015 debt, and you will see that we are getting toward the end of those payments, scheduled to come offline in 2038. So the taxpayer will feel a $3.25 million increase over their current assessment of $2.95 million, meaning that we anticipate for the first 10-year life of this initiative that the taxpayer will feel $6.2 million on their bond. But because of the way that the debt is being paid off for the 2015 bond in the first year of the assessment, it is predicted that the taxpayer will have a $3.9 million assessment to be able to pay off what is that first year debt for the 2025 initiative. Over the life, you can see in the bars as they go over time, it will be a net average for the taxpayer of $3.81 million for this new debt over the life of this millage. For community investment, we have these calculators online for you on our website based on your home market value. For the median home value within the Midland Public Schools, it's roughly coming out to about $1 a day, but we know that that will impact every single taxpayer just a touch differently based on where their home values lie. It's important for us to discuss millage rates within the county, but also out of county as well too. You can see with our current levy of 2.95 mils, that Midland Public Schools is at the very bottom of the pack within the county of Midland. You can see Bullet Creek and Meridian at 7 and Coleman at 4.45. With our new assessment, should it be successful, 6.2 would still put us right in the middle of the pack of where Midland County is. We here in Midland Public also strive to be the best of the best. So when we are comparing ourselves, we pull out what is called an elite comparison group. Those schools within Michigan that routinely perform the highest academically, but may not look like us in terms of funding and or population. And you could see in that group that we pulled out that Midland Public is at the very bottom of this pack as well too in terms of millage rates. If we were to be successful in May, putting us at a 6.2 mil, it still puts us in the bottom half of this pack. And this is something that for us is very, very telling in terms of the average age of our facilities. When you travel around the state and you see facilities on the west side or in the southeast that may not look like the Midland Public Schools facilities, the reality is that the taxpayers in those areas have been assessed a higher rate for decades and decades and decades. We're Midland Public. We have just acquired debt in 2015, and we didn't have debt for decades prior, which is why the average age of our fleet is, again, approaching almost 70 years old. Next steps.
Thanks, Brian. So yes, we are now at the point where we are working hard to ensure that our community has accurate information about this proposal. We're out doing many presentations along with community information sessions. We have another one coming up on March 25th over at Northeast in the evening. So we welcome you all to ask us questions at this point, and I'll ask if either of our school board members have any additional comments to share. Any questions while they're approaching?
Commissioners, any questions?
No, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Either of you?
So you were talking about who's funding the pre-K? Where's the money? Is that part of, or where's the funding coming for that?
It is part of state funding at this point for preschool programming for 4-year-olds for GSRP. And we are understanding, based on information coming to us from the department, that there is interest in expanding that. There's language around universal preschool or preschool for all, and we anticipate additional funding for that. The governor's budget at this point for next fiscal year does include additional funding. We know there's a lot of road ahead to determine what that final budget will be, but yes, we do receive funding for preschool.
So the GSRP stands for what?
I'm so sorry, Great Start Readiness Program.
Any other questions for the commissioners? All right. Was there additional comments?
I think it's been covered thoroughly.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank-
much. We appreciate your time and attention. Have a
Thank
great
you.
day.
And we wish you well. And if others have a question for them, I'm sure that they'll be available for you to ask the questions in the hallway. So, thank you so much. With that, I will invite the public for public comment at this time. The rules for the public comment are on the agenda sheet if you would like, and feel free to come up. It is a 3-minute time period.
Greetings, Joe Bonadis, Homer Township. 2 weeks ago, we were able to get a copy of Form 3881, the Midland Public Schools bond application form to the Treasury Department to qualify the 2025 bond. This was freely given when requested, but not offered. The positive concepts in this data are used in their marketing, but there was more. I will grant you, some of this may be known to people who've written bonds, but Joe Q. Public was not aware of a bunch of this. This is a general unlimited bond, which means that the MPS district's taxable property is the guarantor no matter what happens. Don't pay your taxes, lose your house. They have moved from 15-year bonds in 2015 to 25-year bonds this time to save on payments. They're still paying $1.4 million to buy down an interest rate, and they're going to end up paying $88 million more in interest for the longer term on these bonds. Well, this bond is layered on top of 2015, which you saw, And we will likely have a 2035 bond layered on top of that. Yes, they have already said they will be back in for another bond. The longer period of this 25-year bond will mean we have a higher base for the next one. They assume that Midland will be growing at 1.65% over the next 25 years. If you look at the taxable value and take out the housing bubble and the great financial crisis, which are outliers, the baseline for the district is only 1.03%. And the higher millage rate will end up making up that difference. Also, as we have all experienced, if the state mandates the taxable value of your house goes up like the last 3 years, 5, 5, and 3% each, that's not really growth. That's just inflation. We believe we will have access to a 4.75 interest rate for the next 10 years, even buying it down from their documents. As we grow into a recessionary period, are they really going to have access to that low of an interest rate? Interest rates higher, your millage rate goes up. And for me, one of the landmines in the 3881 form was in 2025 bond series number 1. MPS is actually going to charge a portion of the cost of the May election to the bond. So they are taking $71,000 reimbursement from the bond proceeds, and we will pay 25 years of interest for a total cost of $121,000. While this may be legal, I am not happy to be paying for the privilege of being fleeced for 25 years. While the bond request is for $285 million, when you look at the total cost of the bond over 25 years, it comes out to $487 million, essentially $500 million. As MPS gets ready to layer the 2025 bond on top of the 2015 bond, and likely the one after that, they appear to be on a path of addiction to bonds covering foundational expectations, buses, roofs, etc. The public is not ready to put their property in perpetual bondage to their wish list. We need to live within some sort of a budget. There are committees being formed to help people vote no, get your people out. It was only 17% who voted the last time for everyone in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional public comments at this time? Good morning.
Good morning. Renita Bonadies, Homer Township. I've heard the presentation on this bond proposal many times. We have seen the graphic for the targeted 85% showing how overcrowded our schools are, especially the K-5 buildings. So I took a look at their 95-page Form 3881. I found all of the 5-year projections for building capacities and enrollments at each building. This is where it got very interesting. Our current utilization at the K-5 schools is 93%. After we add this nice state-of-the-art elementary, we will be at 94% utilization. Wait, what? You mean we will spend approximately $91.5 million to build a new building and have a worse utilization rate for the K-5 buildings? In fact, the new elementary is showing a 98% utilization rate. So I looked at the projection for all of the buildings in the district. Our current utilization rate is 86% when comparing capacity to enrollment. The projections show that the district utilization rate for all buildings will be at 94% at the end of these projects. Wait, how is that possible? We're to support this bond and go from 86% to 94% utilization rate. They told us 85% was the goal. How is MPS board okay with supporting and presenting this bond to the taxpayers with a 94% utilization rate? They are asking the taxpayers to take on a $500 million debt for the next 34 years for this bond proposal. Let me fill in the gaps for the public. They're reducing the building capacity at all but one building in the projections. In fact, there is a loss of 1,117 students from the current buildings while adding 600 capacity at the new elementary. So there is a net loss of 517 in capacity across the district. So why does it look like we are gaining nothing in reduced class sizes and simultaneously reducing our building capacities for our claim of increasing enrollment? Look to the non-mandated goal of free pre-K the district is forcing on the taxpayers. This is a desired program of some of their biggest business partners that we hear about at our meetings. How did the taxpayers providing K-12 education morph to building preschools? So they present some things they claim are the problem, but never tell us how these things will be better. I think it is because they aren't really fixing some of the main concerns of the community. This is a sleight of hand bond proposal that will likely leave us with buyer's remorse down the road, but it will be too late. Everyone needs to vote. Your silence is your consent. And I'm a member of the committee for students, Midland students and taxpayers, and we need to make sure the community has all of the information going into this bond election. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment? Good morning.
My name is Laura Phillips. I live in Midland. I have two things. First, I want to thank you for your prayer this morning. I appreciate the comments about unity. That was a refreshing change. And I very much appreciate the open mind that you obviously had after some of the speakers last week. So from one person of faith to another, thank you very, very much. It's a start. The other thing, so I've been here about 18 months. I have a junior in high school. He attends Midland High. We moved from a much bigger area. And my children's school at that time was a 9 through 12 high school that had almost 4,000 students in it. My son is, and I'm not just mom bragging, he is brilliant. And part of the reason that we moved to Midland from Arkansas was better funded schools. And schools that have not been defunded by the state. And schools that were smaller, where my child is not slipping through the cracks. He's not one of almost 800 kids in his class. He's one of 250. Having come from a much bigger area, yes, our facilities are incredibly dated. But that's okay because we're making do. But students and teachers and staff shouldn't have to make do. The signs in town when we moved said City of Modern Explorers. We can't continue to grow modern explorers in dated facilities where the elementary school where learning starts are overcrowded. And someone mentioned pre-K. Pre-K is vital. A lot of parents don't have the means or time or money to send their children to private daycares where they're not getting a curriculum that helps them learn and prepares them for learning. So 2.9, I don't remember the exact number of the millage, but it's under 3%, 3 mils, which is crazy low. My taxes here are so much cheaper than they were back south. And while that's good, I also understand that even when my child graduates next year, my responsibility is to help other families have the same education that my son has gotten. And it's important that we look to the future and know that these kids deserve a fair chance. They deserve the best technology. They deserve safe facilities that aren't caving in. They deserve new roofs. They deserve safer school buses. They deserve these things. And it's our responsibility, not just as parents, but as a community,
Ms. Phillips,
to give them to
your
them.
time has elapsed. I'll allow 1 minute to finish.
Okay, thank you. So I guess I don't understand a lot of the hesitation that people are saying, and it really feels like I've got mine, so no one else gets theirs, and that's really sad. So I want to thank the school board and the presenters from Midland Public Schools, and I want to thank people that are coming into this with an open mind, and I want to thank the community for welcoming families like mine and schools for giving my kids such a good start. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any additional public comment?
Good morning, Bill Davina, Homer Township.
Good morning.
Last board meeting, we saw a coordinated assault on a historical tradition in place since our nation's founding. So I thought it'd be a good time to restate a modern version of my public comments from last year when a similar assault was mounted. A number of persons making the case against the Christian prayer or alternatively suggesting an appeal to some ethereal deity, was intended to give the impression that there is a majority of Midland County residents outraged or even endangered by a Christian prayer, even worse, one that mentions Jesus. I ask you, where is the tolerance? As I look at the makeup of this board, I would say that those with outrage towards the invocation did not prevail in the last election and do not represent the majority of residents who care about this board's actual work product and how the actions affect their actual lives. What I didn't hear was a concrete example of any action taken by the board that was anything other than looking out for the best interests of Midland County residents, period. The results of the last election show without a doubt that the overwhelming majority of the country has had enough of the tyranny of the minority. We have heard also that the First Amendment requires the separation of church and state. In truth, it was clearly meant to keep the government out of the church's business, as clearly stated in the following: Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Let's examine that further with an example. Here is the first paragraph and part of the last paragraph from the first prayer at the Continental Congress by their chaplain in 1774. O Lord, our heavenly Father, high and mighty King of kings and Lord of lords, who dost from thy throne behold all dwellers on earth and reigns with power supreme and uncontrolled over all the kingdoms, empires, and governments. The prayer concludes with, all this we ask in the name and through the merits of Jesus Christ, thy Son, our Savior. No one in the room yelled out, you can't say that. Our country must keep church out of the state's business. Surely they would have known the beliefs that many would soon die for and what would end up being the bedrock of our founding documents, wouldn't they? Since then into the present day, our Congress opens the day with prayer by a paid chaplain who is an officer of the House or Senate. Jesus is not prohibited from these prayers. So in summary, the opening prayer given in this body is built into the fabric of this republic, and God help us when Jesus is excluded from our government. May God richly bless you as you serve the residents of Midland County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Is there any additional public comment? Any additional public comment? Seeing none, the commission will move forward with the consent agenda and will accept a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Support.
All right. Do you read what the consent agenda is, or just, all right. With that, we will look for a motion to approve the consent agenda and need support.
So moved.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. And all those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is approved. Next on the agenda is committee report number 1.
Committee report number 1, dated March 14th, 2025, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, we, your Administration and Operations Committee, recommend approval of the Memorandum of Understanding with House Arrest Services Incorporated for the provision of equipment and alcohol monitoring services. Funding for this agreement is already available in the 2025 budget, and expenses are eligible for at least 50% reimbursement through the Child Care Fund. Respectfully submitted, Jeanette M. Snyder, Chairperson, Eric Dorian, Larry Schulke, Administration and Operations Committee.
Commissioner Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, the Administration and Operations Committee recommends 13-2-25.
Thank you. Any public comment? Good morning.
I'm Lori Bomarito. I'm the Deputy Court Administrator. I work for Judge Cole, and I previously worked for Judge Allen. And if any members of the board have any questions about the agreement or what the devices will be utilized for, I'm happy to answer them. Basically, we are seeking permission to engage with the Sober Link group that District Court uses. And the purpose of that is to allow us to do alcohol monitoring of our youth who are involved in our court, under our court jurisdiction. And it is our hope that we can keep them from being placed in detention. Youth that utilize illegally alcohol in particular, which cause some youth to become violent, necessitating us to detain them and place them in detention. So we already have sufficient funds available within our budget. This would not equate to any increase in those requests.
Thank you. All right. Move on to any other public comment? Seeing none. Any commissioners' comments? Discussion? All right. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, the Administration and Operations Committee recommend approval of 13-3-25.
Thank you. All those in favor will say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it. Move on to committee report number 2.
Committee report number 2, dated March 17th, 2025, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, we, your Administration and Operations Committee, recommend approval of the request to apply for a grant through the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund and the attached resolution of support. The purpose of the grant is to provide funding for the rebuilding of the boat launch parking lot and boat launch pad at Sanford Lake Park. Under the scope of the project, Four Lakes Task Force will provide the local match. Respectfully submitted, Jeanette M. Snyder, Chairperson, Eric Dorian, Larry Schulke, Administration and Operations Committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, the Administration and Operations Committee recommend 14-3-25.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Bridget?
Got to have a second on that.
I'm
'cause
sorry.
It's a resolution.
Thank you. Is there support?
Support.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there any commissioner discussion?
First, good to appreciate what you're doing to try to get additional funding for the work there at Four Lakes in that area of Sanford. So appreciate and that work to try to go at grants. It takes, their painful documents to kind of fill out and all the things associated with it. So thank you for all the efforts you're doing. Try to get additional funding for the taxpayers. So appreciate that.
Thank you. Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in,
Mr. Chair, are these roll call votes since we're
I
doing grants?
apologize, you are
and-
correct.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Jim, you have to do roll call.
She just said that.
Oh.
Thank you. So we will finish with committee report number 2 first, and we will ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Gambrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Commissioner Schulke,
Yes.
and Chairman Stamas.
Yes.
Committee report number 3.
Well, we're going to first return to committee report number 1. It is asking for a roll call vote. So we will return to the committee report 1, and we had the motion in the second. Please call the roll call for again.
Yep.
Committee report number 1.
Commissioner Schulke,
Yes.
Commissioner Gambrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Chairman Stamas.
Yes. All right. Committee report number 3.
All right. Committee report number 3, dated March 14th, 2025, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, we, your Finance Committee, have reviewed the 2025 budgeted project for the County Services Building remodel. We recommend authorizing the Administrator Controller to take the following actions. Transfer $700,000 from the General Capital Improvements Fund, Fund 401, to the Capital Purchase Fund, Fund 404, and pre-fund/transfer $1,350,000 from the General Fund, Fund 101, to the Capital Purchase Fund, Fund 404. Respectfully submitted, Mark Bone, Chairperson, Larry Schulke, Todd M. Gambrell, Finance Committee.
Commissioner Bone.
Move to approve 86-8-22.
Thank you. Is there any public discussion? Any public discussion? Seeing none, is there any commissioner discussion? Seeing none, we will ask for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Commissioner Schulke,
Yes.
Commissioner Gambrell,
Yes.
Chairman Stamas.
Yes. Motion passes. We move to committee report number 4.
Committee report number 4, dated March 14th, 2025, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, we, your Finance Committee, recommend approval of the request to repair and refinish the Veterans Memorial on the courthouse lawn. The proposed vendor, Mr. John Pennick, estimates the cost of this project to be $19,935. Adequate funding for this project is available in the Veterans Memorial Fund. We further recommend that the Administrator Controller be authorized to make any necessary budget adjustments. Respectfully submitted, Mark Bone, Chairperson, Larry Schulke, Todd M. Gambrell, Finance Committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Bone.
Move to approve 12-3-25.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Any commissioner discussion? Seeing none, please call a roll call.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Commissioner Schulke,
Yes.
Commissioner Gambrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Chairman Stamas.
Yes. Motion passes. We'll move on to committee report number 5.
Committee report number 5, dated March 14th, 2025, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, we, your Human Services Committee, have reviewed the request to revise the Deputy Register of Deeds position. We recommend approval of the updated job description and scoring completed by Municipal Consulting Services, LLC, for this position. Respectfully submitted, Elena Smith, Chairperson, Eric Dorian, Jeanette M. Snyder, Human Services Committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Smith.
Mr. Chairman, the Human Services Committee recommends adoption of Agenda Item 15-3-25.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Seeing none, any commissioner discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Commissioner Schulke,
Yes.
Commissioner Gambrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Chairman Stamas.
Yes. Motion passes. Moving on, there is no currently old business or petitions, requests for communication. There is one item, I believe, of new business, so I need a motion to bring one item of new business to the table.
I make that motion.
Thank you.
Support.
Thank you. And the new item business?
New business number 1, dated March 14th, 2025, properly addressed. Ladies and gentlemen, I recommend waiving County Policy 101.3 to reappoint Richard Dolinsky to the Community Mental Health Services for Central Michigan Board of Directors. This appointment is for a 5th term ending on March 31st, 2028. Respectfully submitted, Jeanette M. Snyder, District Number 1, Midland County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to recommend adoption of Agenda Item 16-3-25.
Thank you. All those in favor will say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. And then we will move on to commissioners' comments, and we will start with Commissioner Smith today.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the folks from the Parks Department and for the folks from Midland Public Schools who came out and made their presentations. I found the information from both of those to be very helpful as we make decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
Yes, I would like to echo Commissioner Smith's comments. I appreciated the presentations and the public comments we had today. Very informative. Could I have a point of clarification? For the minutes and the claims, did we need to vote on those, or did we? Did I miss that? I may have missed it.
We didn't vote on it.
Okay.
Which ones? I'm sorry.
The approval of the minutes and the acceptance of the claims.
All right. We'll come back to that after Commissioner's comments.
Thanks.
All right, Commissioner Bone.
No comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Schalke.
Likewise with the other commissioners, appreciate that the school board would come and give a quick review of what they did. And I thank you for all the work that both the Parks and Rec committee are doing the grant, as I mentioned before, and also to Kevin Basin and the other veterans guys as they went to look to find the vendor that could do the repair on the Veterans Memorial. So thank you for that. That was some good work. And we know these guys they've done the research. They're going to do a very good job for us. And appreciate all the comments that from the visitors who have come. We appreciate that you come and show interest. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you. Commissioner Gambrell.
Thank you to the presenters today. Thank you to everybody who made comments. And thank you to all the hard work that was done behind the scenes to get to this point, from Bridget and Kevin and everybody at the county.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorian.
No comment today, thank you.
Thank you. I would echo many comments of thank you to all that have participated today in public comment and those in the presentation. Other than that, that is it. We will return quickly. I thought we had, but we'll accept a motion to support the approval of the minutes and the acceptance of the accounts claims. All those, is there a motion?
So moved.
Support? All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. The motion is approved. Moving on to meeting schedule, and we will start with Commissioner Smith.
Thank you. I would like to announce next Tuesday at 11 a.m. We have our Human Services Committee meeting. And that brings me up to our next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Snyder.
So I thought I was being proactive, updating my computer before I came, but I did not update my iPad, so I can't see any of my meetings, but I know I have a packed schedule until our next board meeting, but I can't see any of my meetings. So.
All right. Commissioner Bone?
I have tomorrow, the 19th, I have in Saginaw, the Great Lakes Bay Convention and Visitors Bureau meeting at 11:45, and that's all I have to announce.
Thank you. Commissioner Schalke?
And tomorrow, I'll be having the Homer Township Board meeting, trustees meeting at 7 p.m. at Homer Hall. On Thursday, be at the Mid-Michigan Community Action Agency at 4:30 in Farwell. Next Monday, I'll be attending the Midland County Road Commission. That's at 9 a.m. at the Road Commission meeting room. And then we'll have both the be attending the finance and A&O meetings next week if they're held. And I have the Community Mental Health Finance Committee at 5:30 over in Clare, or not Clare, Mount Pleasant, and the board meeting at 6:30 in Mount Pleasant. And that's my meetings.
Thank you. Commissioner Gambrell?
No comment, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorian?
None to announce, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. For myself, I do plan on attending the State of the City, and I believe have another command officers negotiation meeting prior to our next meeting. Other than that, those are it. We do today have a closed session regarding labor negotiations, and I would look for a motion to enter into the closed session.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to go into closed session for labor negotiations.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
This needs a roll. All right. Please call a roll.
Could we take a 5 minutes before we do it? Just
Once we finish the motion, yep.
Very good.
Commissioner Bone?
Yes.
Commissioner Schalke?
Yes.
Commissioner Gambrell?
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder?
Yes.
Chairman Stamas?
Yes, thank you. We will go at ease for a 10-minute break, and then we will return at 10:15. We are at ease.
We have a green light.
All right, we are back on with the open mic. So with that, I will accept a motion to return to open session.
I make that
Go back
motion.
into open session, Mr. Chairman,
Support.
following labor negotiations.
Support?
Support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
I think we need-
Opposed, same
Are we doing
sign.
a roll call vote for this? Bill,
Do we need a roll call to come back into open session? Please call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Schuelke,
Yes.
Commissioner Gambrell,
Yes.
Commissioner Dorian,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Snyder,
Yes.
Commissioner Bone,
Yes.
Chairman Stamas.
Yes. All right, motion passes. We have returned to open session. I will accept a motion to adjourn. And once we are adjourned, we're adjourned until Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 9 a.m. To meet for a regular session of the Board of Commissioners, and the committee should return to their duties.
Mr. Chairman, move to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.